Recommendations for electronic circuits prototyping. Use a 30-watt soldering iron to solder your component in Vero board. Use a soldering iron and sponge with water to clean the tip of the soldering iron. Use a good quality soldering wire to wire up your prototypes. Use a proper wire wrapping wire to wire up your prototypes. Use soldering fume extractor to protect yourself from the fumes of the soldering wire. Use a good quality tin coated Vero board for your prototyping. We'll start development of our prototype from the power supply section. Here we can find the AC input for our power supply, and we have 4 diodes, and these diodes are 1N4007, and we have 2 capacitors, that is 2200 microfarad 25 volt, and we have 3 regulators, that is 7812, 7912 and 7805. 7812 regulator is for plus 12 volt power supply, and 7912 regulator is for minus 12 volt power supply. 7805 is for plus 5 volt power supply, and here we can see 3 LEDs are connected with the power supplies just to show the status of these power supplies, that these power supplies are properly working. And here we have red LED for plus 12 volt, yellow LED for minus 12 volt and green LED for 5 volt. So let's start our power supply section from this connector, that is con 3. Here we have a green connector, and we'll connect this connector to get the AC voltages from the transformer, and we'll start our prototype from the left side of this Vero board, and we'll place the connector on the left side of our prototype. As we can see, the dia of these pins are a little bit bigger than the holes which we have in our prototype. So we'll make the holes a little bit bigger to fit this connector in our Vero board. For this we will use a drill machine. Here we have a drill machine, and we'll make the Vero board holes a little bit bigger with the help of this drill machine. Now we can see we can fit our component easily in this Vero board. Here we can see these pins are inserted properly. Now we will solder these pins in Vero board. For proper soldering, we will place the iron tip on the pin like this, and we'll use solder wire to solder this pin. Okay, this pin is properly soldered with the Vero board. Now we'll go for the second pin. Here we can see all these pins are properly soldered with this Vero board. Now we can start the power supply section from bridge rectifier. For this, we will solder 4 diodes in our Vero board. Here we have 4 1N4007 diodes. So we'll start soldering our bridge rectifier. Here we have inserted the diode 1. And here we have inserted the diode 2. Okay, let's solder these 2 diodes first. Here we can see the anode 1 of diode 1 is in series of AC1, and the anode 2 of diode 2 is in series with AC2, and the cathodes of both these diodes are in series. and this side will be positive side of our power supply. After soldering both ends of these diodes to the Vero board, let's check both these diodes from the component side. Here we can see both these diodes are properly inserted in this Vero board. Now we'll solder a second pin of these diodes. Here we have soldered both the diodes in Vero board. Now we'll cut the legs. Use a proper cutter to cut these legs. Don't throw these pins. We will use these pins in our prototype wiring. Now we'll insert the remaining two diodes in our Vero board. The cathode of diode 8 will be connected with the anode of diode 1, and cathode of diode 9 will be connected to the anode of diode 2. Now we have inserted the remaining two diodes in our Vero board. Now we will solder them. Now we have soldered remaining two diodes in the Vero board. Now we'll cut the legs of these diodes. Now we'll join anode of diode 1 and cathode of diode 8 with AC1, and we'll connect anode of diode 2 and cathode of diode 9 with AC2. We have connected the AC input with our bridge rectifier. Now we'll solder the positive and negative side of our bridge rectifier. Here we have soldered the positive side and negative side of our bridge. Now we'll place capacitors with this bridge rectifier. Here we have two capacitors of 2200 microfarad and 25 volt. Here we can see two capacitors, that is C4 and C5, 2200 microfarad and 25 volt. We have inserted both these capacitors in Vero board. Now we'll solder them. Now we'll cut the legs. Here we have soldered both the capacitor in Vero board. Now we'll make the connections for these capacitors. Now we have connected the capacitors with bridge rectifier, and we'll connect the center point of these capacitors with connector 3. Here we have completed the unregulated DC power supply for our prototype, and now we'll check the continuity of our circuit. Using this multimeter, we'll check the continuity of our circuit. First, I'll check this connection. Okay, it is connected properly. Now I'll check this connection. Okay. Now I'll check the bridge rectifier and the capacitors. I'll check the other ends of capacitor with the center pin. Now the unregulated DC portion of our power supply is completed. And now we'll use the regulators to make plus 12 volt, minus 12 volt and plus 5 volt power supply.